What's up, guys? Today's video is for those of you who have a garage that is kind of a mismatching, unfinished garage. Maybe some of the walls have sheetrock and fire tape. Maybe some of the walls have sheetrock and have not been taped, don't have corners, the nails have not been spotted. Today's video, I'm going to teach you how you can easily, in one weekend, catch your garage up to speed. We're going to spot the nails, fix the imperfections in the sheetrock hanging, fire tape, put some corners on. The whole entire garage will look respectable and finished. Something you can do in one weekend, possibly just on a Saturday. Let's go. Okay, let's take a look at what we got here. So here is the existing part of the garage where it has been taped. Nails have been spotted. Corner bead is on. Normal looking garage. Finished like basically like a basic garage, but respectable. And then over here we have some new sheetrock that has been hung. And unfinished. A little bit, some gaps on some of the joints a little bit. We got to spot the nails. We need to fire tape. We have to put on some corners here. So basically, guys, at the end of the video today, you're going to know how to do a nice clean fire tape, fix the gaps, spot the nails, put some corner beads on, and your whole garage will be fully finished and looking respectable. It's something you can do in one weekend. Let's get started. Okay, let's mix up this mud and get going. I know by looking at, how much work I have to do, I'm only gonna mix up about half of this box. I don't wanna mix up a whole bucket and have a bunch of mud left over unless I know I'm gonna be using it on my next job. But you don't want extra mud sitting in your garage. After a couple weeks, it starts to rot and it starts to smell. So you kinda wanna just mix up what you need. And we want it to be thick, so I'm not gonna hardly add any water, just a smidge of water to this, because you want it to be thick, because when you pre-fill those gaps, you need that mud to be thick, otherwise it can start to fall out of those gaps, right? So, here we go. Yeah, that's good. It's plenty. Okay, I usually like to keep a 4 or 5 inch knife around for scooping out the mud. A 6-inch knife or an 8-inch knife is too big. You always end up getting mud on the back of the handle. It's just nice to have a 4 or 5. It's perfect for scooping out mud. Check out the thickness of this mud. Turn it sideways, and very slowly comes off. Right? So, that's good. Nice and thick. Not even sliding off the knife. When you're prepping the board, pre-filling the gaps, fixing broken corners, that's what you want, thick mud. I mean, you can even use mud straight out of the box. Okay, before we start, let's just take a closer look at what we got here, so you kind of understand what we're looking at and what we're doing and what you're looking for. Okay, so pretty gnarly joint right there. We're gonna pre-fill that before we tape it. We have to. Okay, anytime you have a remodel where you have new sheetrock coming into existing walls, you always have nasty butt joints. Pretty nice gap right there. That has to be pre-filled before we tape. Gonna spot all the nails. Moving on, come over here. Another joint where new sheetrock kind of meets the existing. You always have kind of a nasty joint there. Pretty decent little gap there. Definitely have to pre-fill that before we tape. Okay, this is why you use thick mud. If you use thin mud, it would just fall out. Some guys will just come through and just kind of quickly pre-fill any gaps and tape it out. But for me, I'm gonna spot the nails, because when you go through and you spot the nails, you're going over every inch of it. So you're gonna see all the imperfections in the sheetrock as you go, and you can fix those as you go. So you kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Just do it all in one shot. Why would you make one job into 2 jobs? You know what I mean? It saves time. So nails will be spotted, all these imperfections fixed, all in one shot. Let's go. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and just kind of commentate as I go, and that way it'll kind of help you learn and you kind of understand it better. Okay, so on these joints, most of them are good. We've got a little broken corner right here. Got a broken corner bulging out. Gotta cut it out. You can't have any loose, flaky, little chunks of sheetrock in there. I mean, if they're just floating around in there, if they're loose, I mean, you got to get them out. Everything has to be solid. So this style of knife that I really love, this is not a 6-inch knife, this is an 8-inch knife. It looks like a 6, but it's an 8, and I love it. I love these way more than using a 6. I mean, you can do everything with these. When you wipe down your tape, you usually don't get mud dripping off the side because they're wider than a 6. 6 is not good for wiping down tape. 8 or even a 10 I use sometimes, which I really like. A lot of guys don't use the 10, they always use an 8, but I really like using a 10-inch knife to wipe down tape. Also, over here, we have a corner bead, an existing corner bead here. It's a nail-on corner bead, not a tape-on corner bead. So when we did the demo, and then we hung the new sheetrock, we have this harsh metal edge right here. So we need to pre-fill that and then tape it. Okay, so. Tiny gap here, maybe an 1/8 of an inch at the most, but that's enough. I'm just gonna pre-fill it. I could just mud it and tape it, it'd probably be fine, but any gap, I just pre-fill them. So anytime you have one of these, gnarly joints with a pretty decent gap there, when I'm pre-filling it, I'm gonna come at it from this way, because then I'm making sure that the mud makes good contact with this piece of sheetrock. It's getting inside here and it's contacting the edge of this sheetrock, and then I do the other side. Okay, now I know that the mud made good contact with this side and this side, both sides. The inside of it, there's mud making good contact with the edge of the sheetrock here, so it'll bond with it better, it won't drip out, and it'll be stronger. You could also use hot mud. I don't recommend using hot mud to beginners for putting on a coat of mud or doing any kind of finish work, but if you're just pre-filling gaps, fixing bad sheetrock hanging like this, you can go ahead and mix up some thick hot mud, and hot mud is super strong. But this is a garage, and all we're gonna do is tape it and we're done. So we don't have to have it dry tomorrow or even the day after tomorrow. So there's no reason to really mix up a bunch of hot mud, because it's just a one-day job. We can pre-fill it. If it takes an extra day or two to dry, it's fine. So again, anytime you have any like loose paper or maybe little loose chunks of sheetrock that are just kind of hanging there, you got to get those off of there. So we have, a little bit of loose paper kind of hanging off here, flaring out. Okay, got to get that off so everything is clean and solid. Okay, nails are done. The rough sheetrock hanging is fixed, ready to go. Guys, you have to prep the sheetrock. You got to pre-fill those gaps. If there's any broken corners hanging off, you got to cut those off, pre-fill the gap there. Okay, you have to do it. You cannot have air pockets behind your tape. If you have anything that's going to be an air pocket behind your paper tape, you're going to have a bubble there. We call them blisters, and they're never going to go away. After you paint and the light shines on it, you'll see it. You'll see that bubble there. It's going to stand out like a sore thumb. So it doesn't look super beautiful yet, but we're halfway there. Only thing left, tape it, put the corners on. I'm gonna put the corners on first. Normally you tape first and then put the corners on, but I'm gonna go ahead and just put the corners on first. That way it'll give this mud more time to set up and thicken up, which is good. Okay guys, look, I'm gonna teach you something real quick about corner bead. When you go to buy your corner bead, don't get the cheap stuff. It's garbage, okay? It doesn't cover anything. Let me show you something. see that corner right there? That's 5/8 sheetrock. That means you got a good 5/8 of a gap right there. Possibly more, could be 3/4 of an inch, okay? Now look, the main thing you wanna look at when you get your corner bead, the metal part on the inside of the corner bead. If you get the cheap stuff, it's maybe about a 1/2 inch wide, okay? See how wide this is right here? That cheap corner bead, you're lucky if it's a 1/2 inch wide. It doesn't cover that corner. The metal part of the corner bead has to be wide enough to cover that whole corner. 3/4 of an inch gap, could be even more than that sometimes, okay? This is the better corner bead. This one is a full inch wide, okay? This metal part right here, that's a full inch wide. And they carry these at Home Depot now, finally. So this is what you want, you need this. Okay, so we had that mud mixed up pretty thick for pre-filling the gaps. Anytime you know you have gaps that are a full 1/4 inch or even up to a full 1/2 inch of a gap, it's probably better to just use mud straight out of the box. Now that we're gonna put on tape and quarter beads, we wanna thin this mud down just a little bit more. You don't want super thick mud when you're taping. You can't wipe out that excess mud out from behind the tape when it's so thick, you know what I mean? You have to thin it down. So when you go to wipe down that tape, the excess mud will actually come out from underneath the tape and the tape will lay down flat. So again, that's good. Now the consistency of this mud, it's good. It's just right. You don't want it too loose. Okay, every time you grab a stick of corner bead, you need to check the end of your corner bead because a lot of the time this corner of the corner bead gets banged up and it gets bent and it gets just like flared out or flared inward. Okay, this one's messed up. You gotta check every one. Every time you put on a stick of corner bead, check the ends real quick. So you don't have to come at it from two sides. Boom, boom. Now it's perfect. Let's do the other side. Okay, this side is actually pretty good. There's just a tiny bit of a flare. I'm just gonna trim it off anyways, okay? I'm gonna come in about 1/8 of an inch. Boom, boom. Okay? Okay, look, when you put your mud on for your corner bead, you need that mud to come all the way down to the very edge of that sheetrock, okay? That corner, same. When I do this side, it needs to come all the way to the very corner here. That way you won't have any air pockets. The metal part on the inside, you don't have to have mud behind that. You just need to make sure that there's mud behind the paper part. Okay, you're gluing on that paper part. You don't have to pack mud all the way inside this corner right there. You don't have to do that, okay? The metal part of your corner bead is really strong. It covers all that. You just need mud behind the paper tape. And before you put your corners on, you want to flare the paper out a little bit. Go like this, kind of run your hand up like this, kind of run your hand down like that. You want that paper to be flared out a little bit, because if it's flared in like that, then it's going to push the mud away when you put it on, and then you end up with an air pocket behind the paper. Okay, so you want this to be flared out a little bit. That way the paper goes over the top of that mud, and it makes good contact with the mud. You got to give it a wiggle, get it on there good. Okay, let's check the end of the quarter bead again. Slightly flared, not bad, but we need to trim it anyway. Okay, now it's perfect. Check the other side again, just like the other one. Not bad, a slight bit of a flare, flaring outward. It's not good, we don't want that. Right, boom. Trimmed off 1/8 of an inch. Now it's perfect. And that will make it so that your joint, where this corner bead meets up with this corner bead right here, that joint, it'll make it so they line up perfectly. And you don't have that little piece of metal kind of bulging out. A lot of times, if it is, you'll see that even after the job is done and painted, you'll see that little edge of the corner bead bulging out. So you got to make sure these are not flaring. Usually we don't have a corner bead joint at the same spot where there's a joint of the sheetrock. You want a corner bead to cover that whole thing all in one shot, just to kind of straighten it out. But this is just a garage But just so you know. Let's take a closer look at this corner bead so I can kind of give you a closer look at what I was talking about. As you can see here, the metal part of the corner bead covers this big void right here. This big hollow spot, this inside corner right here, the metal part of the corner bead covers all that. Then the paper part of the corner bead up here is on the sheetrock, okay? So as long as there's mud underneath this paper part of the corner bead, no air bubbles under the paper part, that's all you need. If you got the cheap stuff where the metal part of it was only a 1/2 inch, it would not cover that. And in fact, this corner bead would probably be sinking into this gap right here, and you would have just an ugly, lopsided, messy looking corner. The edge of the sheetrock would be bleeding through. You'd see it bulging out. It would just be crappy work. It would be really not quality work. It would look bad. It would look terrible. So that cheap corner bead is garbage. Don't forget to flare out that paper. Want that paper to be flared out just a little bit. Run your hand and run your thumb down it to flare it out just a little bit before you put it on. Every time. Boom, baby. Beautiful, man, this is looking better already. Guys, look, another great thing to do when you're new to putting on corner bead, you want to check it with your knife. I have a light shining at me right now, which is great. I can see daylight in between my knife and the ceiling. There, I can see that my knife is just barely touching this edge of the corner bead right there. That's not good. I want it to be even. So I'm just going to give it a little nudge. Okay, there, you can see it shift just a little bit. Bam. Okay, good. Now I see a little bit of daylight showing through on both sides. My knife is not touching the edge of the corner bead. That means it's even. Okay, so use your knife to check it. You don't ever want the paper or the edge of this corner bead to be touching your knife. You want to see a nice little, gap there on both sides. So we're good. Okay guys, one last piece to finish up this run right here. Bam. Put it all the way in there. I'm looking right at the edge, I can see it. I'm just gonna make a little cut. I want it to be just a smidge short, like a 1/16 of an inch short, because you gotta have a little bit of wiggle room there. When you have a small piece like this, to just put that last piece to put in, it's a foot, maybe 2 foot. You can get a little mud on your knife and you can just slap it on the paper part of this and then just go throw it up. Sometimes it's kind of convenient to do that. As long as it's on the paper 100%, the metal part doesn't matter. Okay guys, before we move on to the taping, let me tell you real quick about this thing right here. This is something that you need to know about. For you contractors, or maybe you're a young remodeling contractor and you're gonna be doing taping once in a while, maybe you are a young drywall finisher still learning, whatever, you need to know about this. You can put on corner beads about like 4 times faster with one of these than you can by hand. These are awesome. They're about $100 and it's worth every penny. We didn't use it on this job. That was basically, I wanted to teach you how to put on corner bead by hand because that's what most of you are gonna do. But just for those of you who are interested, these are worth every penny. They're awesome. Okay. Quick progress report before we tape. We're almost done. Corners are on. Man, look how much better that looks. Nice straight square corners now. Look at that beam. Nice beautiful straight corners. Yeah, I'm gonna show you something kind of crazy here. This is something I learned back in the union when I was an apprentice, like almost 30 years ago. I had to do a lot of fire taping, which means I had to crawl up into these spaces where there was, all kinds of pipes and penetrations coming through the sheetrock on these commercial jobs, and I had to fire tape all these millions of little sheetrock joints everywhere. And one day this guy told me, man, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. You can do that by hand. You can just slap mud on the backside of your tape and just start ripping off pieces and do it by hand. And it was so much faster, so much faster. So on a job like this, where it's going to be just fire tape, let me show you this. if you're not afraid to get your hands dirty, you can tape this out like 3 times faster than a pan and knife. Okay, look, I'm gonna get a glob of mud in my hand, and I'm gonna just make sure to put a nice layer on the back side of this tape. Okay, sometimes you gotta do it twice. There's gonna be little gaps there. That is an extra long piece there. That's a little too long. It's okay. Okay, I know this seems weird and it seems really messy and you're like, what the hell are you doing? But trust me, it's so much faster. And when you go wipe it down, it's gonna look fine. Okay, now think of it this way. Think of how long would it have taken me to come through with my pen and knife and put a thin skim of mud over all the joints and get them ready to slap the tape on. I just did that on all this, like in a minute. Also, if you're still watching, thank you. Appreciate it. If you want to learn more about this stuff, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell, hit the like. All right, guys, we are 100% done. Let's take a quick look. Like I said, guys, taping it by hand like that, getting your hands dirty. If you just don't want to do it, you think it's silly, fine. But I'm telling you, it's at least twice as fast, more than twice as fast as a pan and knife. And once you wipe it down, you slap it on with your hands and then you come through with your pan and knife and you wipe it down. It's flat, it's strong. You can finish it. If you want to finish it smooth, you can finish it for texture, just the same. Anyway, there we go. Now we have a fully finished garage. Done. This side was already taped, nail spotted, corners on. Now the whole garage is 100%. No sheetrock on that wall. The homeowner, that's what they wanted. They didn't want to hang sheetrock there right now. Just wanted to leave that, so they're good. Okay guys, the takeaway from this video today, I would say, is that it's such a great place to start for those of you who are pretty new to taping. It's such a great place because all you need is a 6-inch knife or an 8-inch knife, pan, and snips, and that's it. If you're not doing the whole garage, just one section, you can mix mud in your pan. You really don't even need buckets and a drill if it's not that much. If you're going to be using less than 1 full box of mud, you can scoop mud into your pan, add a little water, mix it with the corner of your knife, and you can do it that way. So the tools needed are not much at all, and it's a great way to practice. If it's not perfect, if there's a few little mess up spots, it's okay because it's just a fire tape garage, and it's a great way to learn. And as far as the materials that you need, just that corner bead, the wide corner bead, the good stuff, a box of all-purpose light, and a small roll of paper tape. That's it. So great place to start, great place to learn. I hope you got something from the video. If you did, leave a comment. I respond to everyone. And if you are working on your garage and you did finish your garage, let me know how it went. Thanks for watching.